Beruchim Animsa'im. We are studying today Parashat Re'eh, which is the Parashat Shavua. Today's shiur is being studied Dilun Nishmat Yosef ben Salha, Victoria Ruach Hashem Tinihem Began Eden, Utin Nishmatam Tzura V'Tzura Hayim. Amen. Our parasha is called Re'eh because of the first word of the parasha. Moshe Rabbeinu is talking to the Jewish people. Moshe Rabbeinu says, Re'eh means look, Re'eh, see. Anochi noten lifnechem hayom. I am giving in front of you today beracha uklala. I'm presenting to you two options. There's the blessings and there's the curses. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, you choose based on your deeds. If you choose to do mitzvot, you have beracha. And God forbid if you choose otherwise, then you're going to have kilala. It's such a simple equation. But to some people this is the most difficult of mathematical computations. It's very simple. You keep the mitzvot, there's beracha. And one does averot, it brings kilala. It doesn't mean immediately. It doesn't mean that on the day that a person does a mitzvah, he's going to win the lottery. And God forbid on the day that he does an averah, that God forbid something's going to strike him down. But we're talking in the long run. At the end of the day, as they say. Always from a mitzvah will come something positive. It has to be good. Beracha is mitzvah. However, from an averah, even though there's a temporary gain, even though in the short run you say, well, it was worth it. It was worth it to make the averah. It's never worth it. Down the line, the kelala bar minan is waiting. So therefore Moshe Rabbeinu, he couldn't say it clearer. I'm presenting to you two roads. You have free will. Nobody could force you to keep the mitzvot. Nobody could force you to be religious. This is the free will that God gave every human being. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, I hope you'll choose life. If you choose life, everything will be good for you and your children and descendants. But God forbid, if you choose wrong, then Haz v'Shalom, it's disastrous. That's the simple interpretation of the Pesukim. As you know already, in this shiur, we come to explain things on a deeper level. I didn't come to say the simple interpretations that already all of you know. I came to say one dirash which is a little deeper. I hope you'll understand what I'm going to say. These are some of the secrets that are written in the holy books. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, there were certain sparks of Kedusha. These sparks of Kedusha, we'll call it an explosion. They were placed in a vessel, but the sparks of Kedusha were so strong that the vessel broke. And these sparks of Kedusha scattered all over the world. And we know from the Zohar Kadosh how many sparks actually were involved in this explosion. The Zohar Kadosh calls it Rapach. Rapach is Resh Pechet. 288. Where did they scatter? All over. And what is the job of Am Yisrael, why we came into this world? Our job is to collect these sparks, bring them back to their place, and once we collect the last and final spark, the scavenger hunt is over, and then Mashiach can come. They call it Rapach Nitzotzin, or Rapach Nitzotzot, the 288 sparks that have been already prepared from the beginning of creation. You're going to ask me, How do you collect these sparks? I don't know how to collect these sparks. Maybe you went to the beach once in Florida over here, and you see there's old men in the morning, they walk on the beach with a machine, and they're looking for jewels on the beach. And every time they hear the machine make a little noise, it makes like a little creaking sound, they get all excited. They start digging and they find a bottle cap. And he gets all frustrated, he keeps on walking. But there's certain machines to detect metal. But I haven't yet seen a machine that detects nitzotzot, sparks of Kedusha. And even if we had the machine, how are you supposed to collect these sparks? So the explanation I'm going to tell you is as follows. When the Jewish people were in Egypt there was a lot of these sparks. When that explosion hit, a lot of those sparks landed in Egypt. A lot of them. And the Jewish people for 200 years worked in Mitzrayim. They worked back-breaking labor. And then there was the 10 plagues, and there was great sanctification of God's name. And then when they left Egypt, they sang a song to God, and they made great religious service. And that religious service brings the sparks back to their perfection. That means religious observance affects the sparks of Kedusha to return them to their place. So much so, the mitzvah is like a magnet. You do a mitzvah, all of a sudden the spark, ding, it clicks. Now I'm not saying that every time you do a mitzvah you get one spark. Otherwise we do 288 mitzvot and we call it a day. But we get a piece of a spark. The good news is, in Egypt, by the time we left, we had collected 202 of these nitzotzot, it says in the holy books. That means from Yetziat Mitzrayim until today, there's only 86 left. So relatively speaking, if we came out of Egypt in the year 2448, now we're in 5773. So it's 3,000 years. So in 210 years we collected 210. That was a great service. For the next 3,000 years we just have to collect 86 more. So it's clear that we have a few more left. There's not too much left to collect. I don't know the number, but I'll tell you a chidush. Once we finish a certain territory, that territory is empty, therefore we have no purpose of living in that place anymore. That's why the Torah says, for example, there's an isur to go live in Egypt. The Torah says we are not allowed to go back to live in Egypt. Don't ask me, what do you mean my grandfather lived in Egypt, Rabbi? My grandmother lived there, there's people in Egypt, the Rambam lived in Egypt. The Arizal says, why did the Torah forbid to go back to Egypt? Because there's nothing left over there. There's nothing to collect. You only are allowed to go into places where there's work for you. Once the Jewish people fixed and cleaned out the place, so what are you living there for? Because of the pyramids? So you can go to the Nile? There's nothing there. Go to another location. That explains also why the Jewish people are always going from one exile to the next. God brings a person exactly to where he has to be at that time in order to make a tikkun, in order to collect that spark that only he could fix. That's why the Jewish people went to Spain. In Spain we stayed during the Golden Era. In 1492, Borei Olam said the place is finished. We collected whatever we can collect. So Isabel and Ferdinand, they thought they're doing us a disservice. They said, get out. They did us a big favor. Because there's no more work in Spain. That's why since that day, maybe there's a small community in Madrid, and maybe some people go to Ibiza once in a while, but I don't think they're collecting sparks, to be honest with you. But the point is these areas basically are finished. That's why there's no rejuvenation of a Jewish settlement. Then the Jewish people went to Europe. And in Europe they built yeshivot, and they had a lot of Torah, and they collected whatever they collected. And then the Jews moved to North America. Today we're in North America. That's where the main Jewish settlement is. And you should know, there's no exile after North America. All the rabbis agreed that they had a tradition from all the way back that North America is the last station on the train. Which means you're not going to hear in 100 years from now that the Jews got exiled from America and they moved to Indonesia. No, this is it. Mashiach is going to redeem us from North America. It's not like although in our history we've moved all over the place. For example, one of the greatest Jewish Torah centers in the world, if you could imagine, was Babel. Babel's Iraq. You see pictures today of Iraq on the news, there's no Jews living there. You know the Talmud, the Gemara that we call it. It was written in Babel, in Iraq. The greatest yeshivot, there was a yeshiva in Babel, Yeshivat Sura and Pumpedita. These yeshivot were old yeshivot. They lasted for 1,000 years. Actually, Yeshivat Surah lasted 1,500 years. Could you imagine a yeshiva that lasted 1,500 years? It was the Torah Academy of the world. You ever have Oxford? Oxford in England is a big college. It only lasted 900 years. It's still around 900 years. That's an old college. Yeshivat Surah in Babel, 1,500 years. The longest standing Jewish academy. Today go to Surah, there's nothing there. There's Bedouins. That means once the Jewish people finish collecting the last spark in that region, God says, close the lights. Last one out, close the lights. And we left, we never came back to Babel. It seems the last sparks that need to be collected are where? In America. You think there's a coincidence why we live in Deal? Where did we find this little place? How did we find it? From where? Because when God created the world, many of those nitzotzot of Kedusha landed here in this region. So God has to orchestrate that there's going to be Jews that live in this spot. It's not a coincidence that we live in this spot. It's predestined that God brings Jews to exactly where they're supposed to be in order to fix. That means in this room that we're in now, you have a doubt. In this room over here where a lot of mitzvot is done and a lot of classes are being taught and a lot of good deeds are being fulfilled, it's because if you would have x-ray vision, you'd see, wow, look at all these nitzotzot. That means every Friday when we come to the shiur, feel good, something was fixed. You picked up something from the floor that only you could do. God brings you where you're supposed to be at the proper time. I'll bring it. Put it in the hall, I'll bring it. Put it in the hall. A flower guy. But this does not last forever. Once the final spark is collected, then we finish Rapah, and then Mashiach comes. You see this? I don't want to say everything that I have to say, but as much as I'm allowed to say. You see this cup of coffee I'm drinking? The way we look at it, this is not a coincidence. Why did this specific water and caffeine, out of all the K-cups that they have, this one came to my cup. And I said, Shakol Niyabit Baro. The Zohar HaKadosh says because a lot of the sparks are in the food. And therefore when you make a beracha, you're taking the Kedusha that's in this food and you're returning it back to where it belongs. I once saw a great rabbi. He was making a shakol niyabed baro and a cup of coffee, exactly like we're doing over here. And he has a book. He has a book and he's reading. He's holding the cup of coffee. Baruch atah. Maybe the shakol niyabed baro took about 10 minutes. At the rabbi, the iced coffee, the coffee's, it's cold. What kind of beracha is this over here? It's not Kippur. The holy rabbis understand that when you make a beracha on something, the beracha has the ability to draw the kedusha outside of the food. And therefore, never underestimate when somebody gives you something to eat and says, make a beracha. That food came to you by design, because there's something in that food that's holiness that only you are able to extract it. And if you don't make the beracha, then that spark gets put back into the mix, and then it has to come out at another time. And that's what the tzaddikim are involved in all day long. The performance of the mitzvot to bring the world to the ultimate perfection. Somebody asked me, Rabbi, is there a hint in the Torah about these 288 sparks? Does it say that? I don't know where. Which parasha is this in? I never heard about it. You're making it like this is the whole purpose of the creation. I was once invited to Hong Kong. They were dedicating a new synagogue in Hong Kong 20 years ago. I went with my wife, and I was asked to speak Friday night at a dinner that they had for all the Syrian men and that were there for the party. And I said to myself, don't look at it as a coincidence. If Borei Olam brought us to this remote place in the world, and He wants us to have Friday night in Greater Hong Kong, where are we? It took us 17 hours on a plane to get here. And we're going to some basement in the Shangri-La Hotel. What are we doing here? And we're making berachot, and we're singing pizmonim. That means that one of those great sparks, and that great explosion when God created the world, landed in this place. So how is God going to get Jews to come to Hong Kong? Who's going to go to Hong Kong? So He puts business over there. So a Jew in New York says, I want to make money. I got to go to Hong Kong. Oh, he has to go to Hong Kong, but he has to pray. So they found a spot in that hotel, in this second floor, and they found a place to eat in the basement. That's by design. Every place where you see a synagogue, every place where they build a mikveh, every place where they built the yeshiva, you shouldn't look at it as if, oh wow, the real estate was available, so they bought it and we built it. No, there was an X on that real estate from the time God created the world. Something holy had to be built on that space. When you go to the yeshiva and you hear the boys and girls learning Torah, it's like a vacuum. They're just drawing the kedusha out of that place. They're making tikkunim, they're fixing the world to reach its final perfection. Now, why wasn't the yeshiva built 200 yards to the right? Because there's nothing there. That is empty ground. You don't need to fix that spot. That means there's no coincidence. The house that you live in, the house that you live in Arabic we say nasib. What do they mean when they say nasib? Not only, oh, look at the way you bought it, the other guy backed out, it came back to you, you belonged in that house. You ever see they say you belong in that house? That house has your name on it from, and the Gemara says that. The Gemara says where a person lives was already announced 40 days before you were born. They made an announcement in heaven, Mr. So-and-so is going to live in this field at that address. Why? Because there's Kedusha in this place. So what happens? A lady comes to a certain location, wherever it is, and Erev Shabbat she's making hallah. What do you think is happening? The Kedusha in that spot is reaching its final destination. Why is it? You see, sometimes it happens, a person's driving in the car. This I told my wife a few weeks ago. We were driving to Rochester, New York. It's far away. It's maybe 6 hours. And you're driving just open land. And it's so monotonous that I guess I had a Yetzer Hara. I stopped following the GPS and I went off of the derech. I just went off the derech. Where are we? She said, where'd you go? But I don't know where we are now. And we're making a sivuv into some hick town in the middle of nowhere. Okay, till we recalculate to get back on the derech. At that point, I got to a red light. My voice was a little hoarse. I took a little piece of sucking candy, shakoli al baro, and I ate it. I said, Sandra, what do you think? This spot over here, there's a nitzotz of kedusha. Who's coming to this spot over here to fix anything? Who's ever going to come to this remote spot? Hashem says, the closest guy is the rabbi, he's here already. So put in his brain to make a wrong turn, let him come to this red light. At that red light he decides to eat a licorice candy. Why? That's bad. Because he's making shakol niyamut baro. And at that point over there, this area is closed. They could put a sign, that's it, vacate, out, it's finished, it's gone. We took the last nitzot shel kedusha, and we move on. Wherever your travels bring you, you have to know that it's from Borei Olam. Sometimes a person gets stuck on the middle of the road. He gets stuck in the middle of the road. Now he has to wait for the tow truck or the AAA. And you're saying the cars are whizzing by. This happened a few years ago. We used to take the Torah bus. It used to be a bus that we used to take from Deal to the city and study Torah on the bus. And then we used to study Torah from the city back to Deal. We did this for many years. Early on, we're on the New Jersey Turnpike. And all of a sudden the bus, what's going on over here? The guy says, I don't know, the bus is breaking down. And he chugs into the service lane. Now we're in a service lane in the middle of nowhere on the New Jersey Turnpike. And the cars are whizzing by. So now we have nothing to do. We have to wait for another bus to come. So the boys say, Rabbi, teach us Torah. What are we going to do now? We do nothing? At least take our minds off of this ordeal. And at the time I told them, I said, you have a doubt why the bus stops exactly at this spot on the turnpike? You think it's random? You think it's just something that's arbitrary? Hashem knows in this spot over here, there's jewels, there's holy sparks of Kedusha. How do they land on the turnpike? Who knows? Who's going to stop on the turnpike at this spot to do anything? So Hashem says, what? There's a generator of Torah over here. These guys can do it in one class, they'll clean the whole area out. How am I going to get them there? So Min HaShamayim, the engine brakes exactly, and we put into that exact moment, into that spot. You see, when you look at life like this, then you realize everything you're doing is productive. That never anything you're involved in is a waste of time. A person gets stuck in traffic. Oh, I'm delayed now, and the car is just sitting in traffic. But he has in the car, he's listening to Torah tape. What do you think's happening at that time? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in His infinite wisdom, stops a car in a certain spot. The Torah that you're listening to is a magnet, and all of a sudden tikkun was done. So you're never wasting time in life. You have to know that. Especially if you live in New York, you have to put this in your brain. When you're in traffic or you're in a place where things are going very, very slow, why did you decide to walk down this block and not the other block? And why did you turn this way? In America they say, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. We never believe that. There's no such thing as wrong place at the wrong time. Every place that a person is the right place at the right time, because God guides the footsteps of man. We say a beracha every single morning. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, hamechin mis'adeh gaber. God, you guide the footsteps of man. That means, Havdil, I don't want to make it so dramatical, but like a puppet that has a puppeteer, that has the strings, that guides the puppet to exactly where it goes. The puppet doesn't make any decisions. Where a person ends up going in his life, why he turns on this road, and why he stops here, and why he goes over to that place, that's all because there is tikkun for him. The Baal Shem Tov said a mashal. I'm going to explain the mashal in a modern way. There was a fellow, he had a business appointment in Chicago. He got to Chicago, and they put him in the conference room. The secretary comes in and says, Mr. So-and-so, welcome. The chairman will be with you in a few minutes. Please have a glass of water. A glass of water? Have a glass of water. Shakol baro. He drinks a glass of water. He puts the water down. Borin fashot rabot. Finished. The secretary comes in right after that. Mr. So-and-so, we're very sorry. The chairman had an emergency meeting. He cannot meet you today. What do you mean he cannot meet me today? No, I'm here. I know you're here. But he's not going to be here. Come back in 2 weeks. What do you mean come back in 2 weeks? I came here today. And he walks out all dejected. What a waste of time, kaparat avonot. The Baal Shem Tov says, he came to make a beracha on that glass of water. That water on that desk had the nitzotz of Kedusha. And the only one to fix it is this guy. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how am I going to get this guy to this glass of water in Chicago? So I have to make a story. Make believe he has a meeting. He's not going for the meeting. He went to drink some water. And he drinks the water, makes a call, and they tell him the meeting is canceled. Of course the meeting is canceled. You accomplished your meeting. That was the meeting. The meeting with the chairman was a ruse. That was a trick to get you to the water. It sounds odd what I'm telling you. But you should know that the great tzaddikim, they believed this. That every place where they found themselves, if they stop on the road and they pull over to the side, they're making Asher Yatzar et Adam b'chokhmah. It's because in that spot, the Asher Yatzar will make the Tikkun HaOlam. So somebody asked me, but Rabbi, shouldn't such an important concept be written in the Torah somewhere? Now, ladies, don't take what I'm teaching you for granted. I guarantee you. Walk out of this class, go ask your husbands. Tell me about the 288 sparks. They'll tell we never heard of it. We never heard of it. These things that I'm exposing to you today are only in the deepest books that we have. Maybe I shouldn't reveal them to you. But it's worthy to know the purpose. I believe it gives us hizuk knowing these things. That nothing is for naught. Nothing is a waste of time. Wherever you find yourself, God wants you to be in that spot. You're never, God forbid, delayed. Every delay is from Hashem. I learned this many years ago when I was going to Eretz Yisrael for one of my first trips. And I don't know if you remember him. In Sharei Sion, there used to be the Shamosh. They called him Shalom. He was an old man. Rabbi Ozeri's uncle. He was an old Temani man. He used to ride to Sharei Sion on his bicycle. His bicycle was from Noah. Noah rode the same bicycle. It's an old bicycle. Remember Shalom from Sharei Sion, Mickey? It's an old guy. He used to make the coffee in the midrash. He used to attend to the shul. Happened to be, we were on the plane with Shalom on his first trip to Israel. He must have been 80. We were kids. And the plane kept on getting delayed. And the pilot keeps on saying, another hour. And every time we're going crazy, Shalom would turn to us and say, Kol akava letovah. Kol akava letovah. Every delay is for the best. Now, what are you talking about? We never heard such a statement. A delay is for the best? How can a delay be for the best? We want to get there already. And then we started getting a little older and we realized that must be on the tarmac where the plane is. Must be with some Divrei Torah or a Beracha or reading some Tehillim. We're doing something. That means there's never such a thing as you're not accomplishing, you're not being productive. So somebody asked me, where is this written in the Torah? Your husband today is going to say, what do you mean? Rapah nitzotzo? Where is this Rapah? Where is this 288 sparks? Show me a pasuk. So I'm going to give you the answer. Not only is it in the Torah, but it's right in the beginning of the Torah. Because that's when this happened. This great explosion happened right in the beginning of the creation. And I'll prove to you also that we fixed the 202 in Egypt. I have to ask you that as well. It says in the beginning of the creation, V'ruach Elohim merachefet al penei hamayim. What does it mean? Very good. V'ruach Elohim, and the Spirit of God merachefet, was hovering over the water. Merachefet. I don't think if you look in the whole Torah, you don't see this word again. You only see the word merachefet once. In the beginning, when God created the world. The Spirit of God is merachefet. Says a great rabbi called Rabbeinu Ari. What's the first letter of merachefet? Mem. Hazak Baruch. What's the last letter of merachefet? Taf. What does that spell? Met. Met means died. And what's the middle letters of merachefet? In between the mem and the taf? Resh, pe, het. Merachefet. Resh, he, pet. Resh, he, pe. It's the same thing. Met rapach. The 288 died. Merachefet. That's the spot where we learn that the world now needed to make tikkun. So how do I know that in Egypt they fixed 202 of them? Very simple. It says, you remember when Yosef was sent down to Egypt. Yosef went down to Egypt before the family went down to Egypt. And then Yaakov Abinu met him down years later, and they reunited. The Pasuk says many times that when they went down to Egypt, the brothers needed food, because there was no food in Canaan, there was a famine. So Yaakov tells the brothers, go down to Egypt, lishbor bar, to get food. The Torah calls food over there bread, bar, betrish. When do you ever call food bar? So the rabbis say bar is betrish, is 202. Yaakov was hinting, go down to Egypt, lishbor bar. And then when he heard that Yosef was still alive, what does he say? Rav, od Yosef beni hai. Again he says the word Rav, resh bet. And you see that word Rav being repeated over and over and over when the Jewish people were in Egypt. And then when Moshe Rabbeinu was about to die, Moshe Rabbeinu was telling God, God, I want to go to Israel. I don't want to die. I still have a lot of work to do. So what is, he prays 515 prayers. What does God tell Moshe Rabbeinu after the 515th prayer? Rav lach. Enough. But the holy books say, God told Moshe, Rav, you did 202 already. You took the Jewish people out of Egypt. Rav lach, you didn't do bad. You accomplished 202, Rav. There's only 86 left. Let your children, your grandchildren, they'll take care of that. So you see, this concept is already sprinkled throughout the whole Torah. What does it have to do with this week's Perashah? It's a good question. I'm asking myself this question as well. But the holy books say, Re'eh Anochi Noten Lifnechem Hayom Beracha. God says, Moshe says, I'm giving today to you a beracha. Re'eh is a resh. That's 200. Anochi is a aleph. That's 1. That's 201. Noten is a nun. That's 50. That's 251. So far, so good. Lifnechem is a lamed. That's 30. That's 281. Hayom is a he. That's 5. That's 286. Beracha is bet. That's 2. That's 288. Moshe Rabbeinu was saying, Re'eh Anochi Noten Nifnechem Hayom Beracha. The first letters of every one of those words equals 288, which is hinting that the Beracha comes from when we accomplish Torah Pa'nitzotzot. And that only comes from doing mitzvot. All the yoga in the world cannot fix even one Rapah Nitzotz. It doesn't come from flipping cards or rolling dice or turning over checkers. It only comes from the observance of the mitzvot. But with your permission, I'd like to say another interpretation to this pasuk, which I think is very practical. Somebody recently came to me and they were in a depression. And they said, Rabbi, could you give me words of chizuk, words of encouragement? I said, I'm not a professional. You need to go to, a therapist or some sort of professional. What am I going to tell you? You have a condition. Maybe you need medicine. I said, but somebody told me that you can give me chizuk. You can give me encouragement. It was actually this week. So I said, I'm going to tell you hadush now. There was a king. The king went to a big rabbi for advice. He said, I'm going to give you the advice of life. Who makes the rings for you? Who's your jeweler? He said, so and so. He said, okay, I'm going to make a ring. I'm going to make a design. I want you to go to the jeweler, make the ring, fit it on your ring, on your finger, and wear it. After it's made up, come back to me and I'll explain it to you what it means. He makes him a ring, and it has on it 3 letters in the Hebrew language. Gimal, Zayin, Yud. Gazi. The king doesn't know what Gazi is. He said, the rabbi, this stands for Gam Ze Ya'avor. This too shall pass. He said, but what is the advice? What does this advice mean, this too shall pass? He said, I'll explain it to you. He says, one day you're going to win a big war, and you're going to feel you're on top of the world, and you're going to be making all sorts of money, and you're going to have tremendous prosperity and tremendous barakah, and you're going to start to feel a little arrogant, and you're going to start to feel a little haughty, and you're going to start to think that you're impenetrable, and you're going to start to think that you can do anything, and you're above life. At that moment, I want you to look at the ring, and you must remind yourself, this too shall pass. That nobody has a contract on prosperity, and nobody has a contract on health, and nobody has a contract on life, and therefore this ring will keep you humble. That your beracha, today you have beracha, but does that guarantee you that you have beracha tomorrow? And therefore you better accept the blessing of God in a humble manner. And then the rabbis told him, and there's going to be some days that you're going to be defeated by your enemies. And the enemies are going to have you in a stronghold. And they're going to pillage your villages. And they're going to take away a lot of your profits. And at that point you're going to be very sad. And I want you to look at the ring again on that day. And I want you to look at those 3 letters, and it's reminding you, Gam Ze Ya'avor, this too shall pass. And that'll keep you optimistic. That nobody remains in a dark place forever. Always after the darkness comes the light. Like it says in the Torah, Vahi Erev, Vahi Boker. When it gets dark at night, somebody will say, it'll never be light again. And the scary thing is that right before the morning, it's the darkest moment of the night. So you say to yourself, it's going to get light, it's only getting darker. And at the darkest moment of the night, all of a sudden the rays of light start to shine. It passes. If somebody saw yesterday's weather, you said, you think the sun will ever come out again? Impossible. Impossible. The sky is so ominous. And you wake up in the morning and say, Hashem wants a sunny day. It always passes. The clouds always pass, and a depression passes, and nobody remains in a bad place forever. And this is something that you have to remind yourself. Gam Ze Ya'avor. Lavdil. A fellow is a salesman. And all of a sudden he's in a slump. He can't sell anything. Every customer that comes in, he can't sell. And he falls into a depression. He says, I'm never going to be able to sell anything again. I lost my knack. And we tell him, don't worry, keep on going. It's going to pass. You're going to see all of a sudden one day, it's going to break. All of a sudden what happens? Old lady walks into the store one day, I'd like to buy this little trinket. Oh, he sells it to her. And he takes the money. And all of a sudden, somebody else walks in. And she broke the ice. All of a sudden he comes home and looks like, what happened to you? It broke. What do you mean it broke? I thought you said it's never going to break. How did it break? A big sale? No, a little old lady came in, she bought a trinket, but from there already my confidence got strong again and I got out of it. This is the way it happens in everything. This is the way it happens. I know you're not sports fans, nor am I so much these days, but in baseball, you have a baseball player, he goes into a slump. He can't hit the ball. 100 times, he can't hit the ball. They're interviewing him. What happened to you? I don't know. And he's depressed. And all the other players are hitting, and he never can, he said, I'll never get out of this. All of a sudden, what happens to him? The oddest thing. He's standing at home plate one day, and the ball hits him. The law is if the ball hits the player, he gets to go to first base for free. Now, it's a cheap way to go to first base. He didn't really earn it. He got hit by a pitch. But now he's on first base. He hasn't smelled first base in 100 games. Now he's excited. Oh, he's on first base. His confidence comes back. He steals the base. He runs to second. Safe! Oh, it feels good. The next time he gets up, he hits a home run. What happened? It stopped. How did he get out of it? In a moment, it changed. And just like a person can get out of a slum and get out of a bad sales position, In life it's the same thing. Borei Olam is able to change a person from night to light in a moment. And that's what the Pasuk is telling you. Re'eh anochi noten lefnechem hayom. You always have to look at today. Whether today is a beracha or whether today is a kelala, it's only today. Which means the beracha that you have to keep you humble, you have to say, today I have a beracha. Who says if tomorrow I'm going to have a beracha? Do I know for sure that all the beracha that I have is going to last forever? And therefore when you look at your beracha in the today, it keeps you humble. But you have to look at, God forbid, the curse as well is only today. Today, beracha uklala. If a person is going through a cursed part of his life, God forbid, a person is going through tsar, a person says, I'll never have a child, I'll never get married, we'll never make money, I'm never going to have satisfaction in my marriage, and you say, this will never end. The Torah is reminding the person, even your kelala is limited to hayom, and your attitude must be optimistic, that you're able to get out of it, you can change. Last point. You see, today, I went from more difficult to more practical. First I told you about Rabbi. That's just so I can fulfill my desire to make sure to always tell you something that I know you're not going to hear anywhere else. I have no choice. I never want to go to give you a class where I see all of you nodding your heads. Yeah, we know it. We heard it from the other rabbi last week and 2 years ago. You're supposed to walk out of the class and say, wow, what is he talking about, this guy? We never heard any of this stuff over here. That's why you come to class, to hear new hadushim. So I told you that's the Rabbi. So you could feel good that you learned something new today. But the third thing I'm going to tell you, and I'll leave you with this. There's a midrash. The midrash says that the Shabbat came to God. And the Shabbat said, God, I have a claim. What's your claim? Sunday is married to Monday as a partner. Tuesday's married to Wednesday. They have a partner. And Thursday's married to Friday. But I'm the odd man out. I have nobody to be a partner with. The Shabbat had a claim. Who is my partner? So Borei Olam said, I'm going to make you a deal. The Jewish people are going to be your partner. So you're not going to be alone. And therefore, when the Jewish people keep the Shabbat, it's like they're married to the Shabbat. Where do you see this connection between the Jewish people and the Shabbat that they're connected? Well, if you take the word Yisrael, no, we're called Yisrael, by the way, as you know. Now, can you do a simple experiment? You don't have to be a mathematical genius to do what I'm going to tell you to do now. All you have to do is know the alphabet. You don't even have to do that, because I'm going to tell you the alphabet. All you have to do is figure out the letters that are in front of the words Yisrael. Yud. What's the letter in front of a Yud in the Hebrew alphabet? Well, the letter after Yud is Chaf. Chaf. Yud Chaf, right? So I write Chaf. I write a Chaf on my paper. Now I see the letter Sin, Yisrael. The letter after Sin is Taf. So I write a Taf on my paper. I write a Taf. I see a Resh. The letter after Resh in the alphabet is, after Resh is Shin. Resh Shin. Come on, Mickey, you know that. Don't be humble. The letter after Aleph, Yisrael, is Bet. And the letter after Lamed, Yisrael, is Mem. That spells on my paper over here, Shabbatechem. Which means, Yisrael, the letters that are in front of the letters of Yisrael, spell Shabbatechem, your Shabbat. To teach you that there's a unbreakable link between Bnei Yisrael and the Shabbat. And all of our beracha comes from the Shabbat. You have to know that. When somebody came to the Hafetz Chaim once, and he said, Rabbi, I want a beracha. He told him, are you Shomei Shabbat? He said, I'm not Shomei Shabbat. Rabbi started laughing. He said, listen, You see over here I have a box. In this box is all the beracha. This is where I get the beracha from. You know what this box is called? This is the Shabbat box. All the berachot in the world come from Shabbat. How can I give you a beracha from the box of Shabbat if you're not Shomer Shabbat? Go become Shomer Shabbat and then I can give you. We say it in the Lecha Dodi, Ki mekor ha-beracha, it's the source of blessing. There was a rabbi called Ibn Ezra. He's one of our rabbis, one of the Sephardi rabbis of 800 years ago. He wrote a song that we sing on Shabbat. Ki eshmera Shabbat, el yeshmereni. If I keep the Shabbat will keep me. That means it's reciprocal. The Shabbat says, you want to be protected? You keep me. But God forbid, those that are in contempt of the Shabbat, Chas v'shalom, the Shabbat says, I asked for a partner, and you have betrayed me. You were supposed to be my partner to take care of me. On Shabbat, God said, Yisrael is the partner. Then, God forbid, the Shabbat comes and becomes the enemy of Klal Yisrael. And this is what it says in the Pasuk. Re'eh anochi noten lifnechem. Look what I'm putting in front of you. Moshe was talking to the Jewish people. The Jewish people are called Yisrael. What's in front of Yisrael? Re'eh anochi noten lifnechem. I'm putting something in front of you. In front of Yisrael is Shabbatechem. Re'eh anochi noten lifnechem. Hayom, today. Hayom is Shabbat. Today is the Shabbat. And regarding the Shabbat, beracha uklala. There's a blessing and there's a curse. If you keep the Shabbat, that's in front of you, Yisrael in front of you, Shabbatechem, you have beracha. If not, then it's kilala. So somebody may ask me, but Rabbi, what are we supposed to do on Shabbat? Well, it says that mainly the Shabbat is given for synagogue, for studying Torah, for having se'udot with your family, and rest. Nothing wrong with such a day. Give me 2 days a week like this, I'll take it. This is a great day. But Rabbi, when is the time for tennis? When is the time for golf? When is the time for parties? When is the time? Oh, very good. That's what we have Sunday for. Hashem was so kind to us in this exile. He gave us 2 days. 1 day for Kodesh, and then 1 day to give to the... You can't be a rabbi and study all day long. So he gave us 1 day to fool around a little. You can't sit in the bed midrash 24 hours a day. That's what we have Sunday for. But woe to those people that turn the Shabbat into Sunday and keep Sunday as Sunday. They don't switch Sunday into Shabbat. In Arabic there's a saying, Sa'a Rabbak, Sa'a Albak, which means there's an hour for your rabbi and there's an hour for your heart. Shabbat is Sa'a Rabbak, is an hour for your rabbi, for the Bet Knesset. Sunday, Sa'a Albak, that's for your heart. Go relax, put on your pajamas, go run around, do whatever you want. But woe to those people that don't have patience to go after their heart's desires until Sunday. Our community is a great community and we're blessed. There's no question we're blessed. And our people are good. The nation is holy and God is resting amongst us. There is no second in the world that rivals our community. And I don't judge our people. I say all our people are good. They're filled with mitzvot like a rimon. But what happens? By living in exile for so many years, the exile wears away our tradition. It's not our fault. You put any person in a foreign land for 2,000 years, he's going to forget his tradition. It's only natural. But woe to us that in the place that we're keeping Shabbat here in this synagogue, in our holy synagogue, that the walls of our synagogue shake on Shabbat from people that are already on Sunday activities. Sunday activity is music. Sunday activity is cigarettes. Sunday activity is texting. Sunday activity is driving. Sunday activity is all... It's Sunday activity. I'm not against Sunday activity, to be honest with you. But I'm against Sunday activity when you can't wait till 8:52 on Saturday night. Once you say Borei Meorei Esh and you say Mavdil ben Kodesh leHol, you separated between Kodesh and Hol. Now go do what you want. But don't bring Sunday into the Shabbat. then God forbid, it's kelala, it's cursed. I'm not cursing anybody, I'm blessing everybody. I'm just telling you what the Torah is saying. But you say, wait a minute, what's cursing? Everybody's jumping around. Everybody's having a ball. Everybody's living up their life. I told you, it's not immediate, God forbid. The Shabbat is very, very jealous. It's like a person who's married to somebody, and then they're unfaithful. Why? This is a bad combination. The Shabbat says, I was very faithful to you, and instead you switched me to Sunday. You switched me for somebody else. You took different attitude. The Shabbat gets offended by this, and God forbid if the Shabbat gets offended, God forbid that we lose our protection. Again, this is something we should be very concerned about. As parents, we must be concerned that our children behave on Shabbat like they're supposed to behave on Shabbat, and they behave on Sunday like they're supposed to behave on Sunday. I don't think, an extreme person. But it is not extreme to say that Shabbat must remain Shabbat. Is that too much to ask for people? Are we so addicted to a music? Are we so addicted to a barbecue? Are we so addicted to this frivolity that we can't wait a few hours? How brazen is it to make a party on Shabbat at 4 p.m.? 4 p.m. the Shabbat only has 4 more hours. You can't wait 4 more hours. It's pressing. It's pikuach nefesh. You have to make noise and wake up the whole community and shake all the houses just to tell everybody Shabbat is not Shabbat. Shabbat is Sunday. That's what you have to tell them. For what purpose? And you know you're next to the synagogue. You know God lives here in this house over here. Why disturb the peace of God on the day of rest? Shabbat hi Hashem. And therefore the Torah reminds us, Re'eh anochi noten lifnechem. You are in front of the Shabbat, Yisrael, and in front of the word Yisrael is Shabbat Echem. And that's the day of Hayom. And all of your beracha and kirara depends on this day. To me, there's no greater Gan Eden than the Shabbat. Anything greater than that, than to sit with your family and eat and enjoy. I'm not telling you have to even read all day long. A person wants to sit in the backyard, sit on your hammock, fall asleep on a book. Gan Eden. But don't desecrate it. Don't do brazen things. And I give our people the benefit of the doubt. And I say in front of God as well, what do you expect from children that were brought up in this generation that is so hedonistic and so pleasure-seeking and has no values? How do you expect them to know what the right thing is? But we do expect the parents to know. Maybe the children are not supposed to be so aware. But the parents and the grandparents, they must be careful. And then Be'ezat Hashem, the 3 interpretations that I told you. Number 1, the letters of Re'eh Anochi Noten Lefnechem Hayom Beracha equals 288. To remind you, your Beracha is where you find yourself. And every place where you find yourself is not by chance. It's in order to fix something that specifically is in that place. Now we came to fix deal. A few months, some of us will go, in a month we'll go back, we'll continue to finish our work in New York, we'll finish the Tikkun in North America. The second interpretation I told you is that if you have a beracha in your life, you have to be humble. It's only Hayom. It's only today. You don't know what tomorrow will bring. And God forbid if you're going through a kilala in your life, you also have to remember it's only Hayom. It's only today. This too shall pass. Gam ze ya'avor. Vahi erev vahi boker. The third interpretation is God says, look what I put in front of you, Yisrael. I gave you the Shabbat. You are married to the Shabbat. And therefore you must be loyal. And if you're loyal to the Shabbat gives back much more than you give it. Ibn Ezra said, more than the Jewish people have kept the Shabbat has kept the Jewish people. And therefore it's an insurance policy. But God forbid if we're unfaithful to our spouse, to the Shabbat that we're married to, it's connected. Yisrael and Shabbat Echem are connected to each other. Then God says, Haz v'shalom d'sken Allah. Ve'atem, and you ladies, Adevekim b'Adonai Elohechem, that you're attached to the Almighty. Hayim kodechem hayom. Life be upon all of you today. Amen ve'amen.